welcome you all. My name is Joana Costa and I'm with the Nova SBE Executive Education team. It is with great honor that I host you for today's webinar with Professor Felipe Costa, who is going to explain to us how to deal with operational crisis and resource management in healthcare. After almost 2 months in a quarantine, adapting to this new reality, we are still trying to adapt, trying to adjust, trying to minimize the impact in our lives. We are all together in this challenge, and that's the reason why Nova SBE launched the campaign We All Have a Role to Play. We want to help you to understand your role in this paradigm shift and the impact of it. I invite you all to explore in detail the projects related with this initiative in roletoplay.novasbe.pt. Just before we begin, some technical guidance. Please provide us with your questions using the Q&A tool that you can find on the bottom of your screen. And now, without further ado, I leave you with Professor Felipe Costa.
Thank you, Joana, and good afternoon to everyone on the webinar. I saw that you already filled up the pool. And what is this about operational crisis resource management in healthcare? I bring you this subject concerning crises and opportunities. And so I start by introducing myself for you to know what's the role of my presentation. And my three main passions is healthcare management, it's knowledge and education, and it's music. And so this is the three addictions that I have that I will detail on my presentation. So every story has a song, and we need to know what is the song behind the COVID-19 crisis. And this is a paradox that every day I've been living with the theory, the practice, and two worlds, one mind and one action. And coronavirus is leading us to the crisis, but we always need to see Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And the world stopped at a certain point. Okay, the world closed. Probably not, because operations management continue doing their work very hardly. And there's an important subject that we need to address. It came from aviation, then it went to medical teaching, but it started on aviation. It's called crew resource management. And now I will not tell you about the problems, and all my presentation I will deal with challenge and opportunities in times of crisis. So crew resource management in 1979 was considered human error a common cause of airplane accidents. So we needed to have train for the available sources to minimize and to achieve good safety and good efficiency concerning operations. And in 1999, a huge report to Where is Human said that team training programs in personnel in critical areas, it was mandatory and it was very important to do it. And it was a relationship between aviation and assimilation. And if you look to the sum of the problems that we normally have in the cockpit, we see there's a huge relationship with what's happening nowadays in hospitals. So more than looking into the technical approach of what is this kind of knowledge, I wanted to address you the most important part, which is non-technical skills. Okay? And if you look to the board, we can see decision-making, communication skills, teamwork, leadership, stress management, fatigue as a huge challenge and opportunity for us to see what's the actual moment. And the most important part when he brought crew resource management into the medical field, we saw that is an important discipline called crisis resource management by David Gava, which made this framework about this theory. So we need to have a designated leadership. We need to anticipate and plan and reevaluate separately. We need to know really well the environments and use all the available information that we have to allocate our attention widely. And then to mobilize all available resources with the use of cognitive aids. Then we can communicate effectively, distribute our workload, and establish a role clarity, and always very important, call for help early. So the train is absolutely important. And David Gaba said, why are we waiting unequivocal proof for the benefits of simulation to embrace it? So it's too much important to train it until you make it, not fake it until you make it. And this is the connection that I wanted to bring into you, because crisis resource management started by aviation, coming to clinical practice, and I really believe that this needs to go to operational management and strategical approach. So is it a challenge and opportunity? I think so. But we know that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we cannot expect to solve the same problems with the same thinking. And more than talking about logistics, supply chain, or efficiency on monitoring, I think that's the technical part of the problem. We need to address the non-technical skills that the organization needs to address on operational management. And something that is so difficult to achieve, which is the sense of urgency, like Kotter has said, COVID-19 brought us this challenge and these opportunities, creating this climate of change. So it's something that we need to embrace and need to go further and adapt. And then getting things to action, the art of stress-free productivity is something that is very important for appropriate engagement and creating the psychic bandwidth for a manager. And of course, Amy Edmondson has brought us the concept of teaming, but mostly of all, a huge concept of fearless organizations that learn, that innovate, and feel that we have a psychological safety work environment for us to learn, innovate, and grow. And this is what happens nowadays. And we know that military and even healthcare have a very hierarchical and structured model. And we know that internally in each areas, we have networks working. But it's still very silo. And so General McChrystal, back in the war in Afghanistan, developed a plan that changed this possibility of stability versus agility. Okay? And that's how he won the war in Iraq against Al-Qaeda. So what he has done, he mixed all the models, and the focus was not to finish it, but to exploit and to analyze, because the troops on the ground had more detailed information and they were much more quickly making that kind of action. So I think this framework really challenge and puts into practice what we really need to see on operational management. We need to define correctly the current reality. We need to develop the prioritized plan. We need to create simple rules and cultivate an efficiency communication, and to enable this empowered education to lead through crisis. And this is a framework too much important, developed on team of teams. So 4 main rules that I think it's important to define the current reality. We need to have trust in our teams. We need to have a common purpose among us. We need to have a shared consciousness, and we need to have an empowered execution. Why? It's important that we go over the rules of Caitlin Hasenhart and the work that he has been doing concerning simple rules on a complex world. Why? Because it's like the example of Mount Everest. We know that's a higher rate of deaths. Why? Because at a certain point at 2 p.m. they cannot climb above what they were doing it. So you have to have simple rules when times run short and the risks runs high. Again, we cannot paralyze by analyzing. We need to guard against emotional charged decision making. And most of all, we have to enable conditions between disconnected team, which is something that we are too much time going on with our teams. So we need to allow leaders to direct action indirectly in this world. So we need to have simple rules that is understandable, memorable, and actionable. So we need to communicate, and we need to cultivate this way of communication, having decision rules, prioritized rules, stopping rules, actionable rules to know what, how, when we are going to do it. And mostly of all, we need to look to the operational rhythm And an example is a daily stand-up where we are able of establishing communication and making time to be human on our behaviors. And also in this new COVID time, we need infrastructures like IT really working on. So an important diagnosis, and this is an important sentence that I wanted to bring to you with Ed Brainford, is the team wants to know how much you care long before they care how much you know. So for you to enable action and to enable targets, your team needs to know what's the drive. And you need to know if they have the competence to do it. And you should lead and give them the authority to work on. And they should know what's the context of they are living in nowadays. So we need to work as a fusion cell concerning one mission. And concerning leadership, I think this is a very important example. We should lead like a garden. Why? Because we don't put plants growing. We help them grow. So we need to break up the hard soil. We need to plant the seeds in the right place. We need to ensure essential ingredients when they are available. We need to remove the barriers that blocks the sunshine. And we need to set up a regular cadence to water and weed. So why? So we give the plant time to space and to grow. That's what we need in our teams. So if you look to a Kynefin model from Dave Snowden, we know that we are not in a simple world. We were in a complicated world concerning the rate of external change into internal alignment. We know deeply that we are in a complex world, and let's see if we are not in a chaotic moment. So this is a line between complicated and complex. And normally people and teams have a natural role to be in complicated, but we need to be also in this complex world. So first great main conclusion, I think the teams need to be a team of teams, to be agile, to be very quickly on the approach that they are giving it. So they are living organisms like the brain, for the connections to interact and for them to have the agility to go on and to proceed for their objectives. So the value that we are generating reveals the values on which we concentrate. And COVID-19 is bringing a lot of challenges and opportunities. Why? Because it's always bringing value to the model, and even for the shared decision makings among teams that are on the field. And it's always a challenge because it's bringing also some changes in the culture organizational model. And at the same time, I think this video shows what is the reality of the teams and what is the next step for all the teams. This is the birds adapting to a predator attack. And they need to constantly adapt. They need to remodel to have a different type of position on the field. And that's what we need. We need to give this help to the teams. So concerning leadership, I think we should, like Adam Grant is saying, we need to be a giver and not a taker. We need to dare to lead with vulnerability. This is a very important question that Brené Brown brought to us. And we need a code of trust. Rowan Trick gives us this. But mainly we need grit. We need resilience. That's one of the secrets of success. For us, it's very important our teamwork. So we need to focus not being special, to know what we do matters. And this is a very important sentence concerning military that says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I daily do this daily stand-up with my team, and I wanted to bring it to you in the beginning saying, how do you feel today? Because professionals in healthcare are men and women, are family persons, and we need to know how they are feeling today, so we can help them and we can be a more organized and more efficient team. And we should remember that we should create an environment that doesn't harm people. And this is a very great book for Jeffrey Pfeffer. But most of all, we should create a circle of safety, a trust, a sense of belonging, and a sense of mission. And this is, I like too much this rule of Spartan, because the most important weapon of Spartans was not their spear, it was their shields. Why? Because shields is the most important weapon because they protect the others. So they have a rule, come with your shield or on the shield. So we know that we'll need to create value. And the future awaits us because we are going to create not only value to a specific person, we are going to create value as a social determinants of care with a broader approach. And we should not be focusing in too much data that doesn't lead us to action. We need to measure what really matters. Data are important for us to have concrete actions and to see results. That's why I think in our days the practice will make perfection, and the introduction of simulation brings us a new approach that practice by doing will capture much more information than just by doing lecturing or reading. And I feel in my daily activity a little bit like Heteronymous of Fernando Pessoa, because I'm always dealing with this information from all these authors that can bring to me more knowledge, and we can all be better concerning the subject of operational management. So I think that no longer education will be equal after COVID-19. Why? Because I think simulation and crisis resource management that were only allocated to clinical specific detail are going to integrate management practice, are going to integrate the board administration into education process crisis as a fusion cell. And this is the relationship that I've been having concerning the paradox of theory and practice. And I truly believe nowadays that theory and practice are hand by hand with a common objective. So we are taught to do things concerning our functional excellence, but we should be looking to shaping things to create influence and building these kind of relationships. Why? Because I think that's the difference between leaders and functional technicians. And to answer your question from the beginning, and like a music of Barry White, let the music play on, I'll say, let the musicians play. Because I believe this is not a classic concert as theory framed, or a rock concert chaotic. I think we should play it like jazz, improvisation with the rules of engagement. So knowledge and education brings melody, and operational management brings harmony. And I always bring the kids to my final presentation because I believe they are the most honest person that exists. So you need to be bold. You need to think outside the box. You need to take time to dream and to think. It's important for you to live your dreams. It's important for you to get on your feet again after each failure. Don't worry about failure. Because we need to be prepared to be misunderstood for a long time. But we always need to treat the others with respect. That's the magic of thinking big. And my role, and we all have a role to play, and my role is taking care of the people who take care of you. And if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Philippe. I think, as we say, it is on the kids that we find the truth. We now have some time for a few questions. The whole message of your presentation is that we need to see this crisis as an opportunity and not as a threat. So if you had to identify the 3 key actions to pass from the threat view to the opportunity view, would be what will be these 3 key actions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Joanna. I think the main 3 questions that it's like you go over the framework, okay? You have to know your environment very well. You have to know the persons that you're dealing with. Where you need to go with them until the end of the world, and they really have to have that connection with you, okay? They really need to feel that we are on the same mission, same objective, with the same purpose. And at the end, you should create a safety environment, a circle of trust. So people, when they go to work, they already have a lot of danger concerning what they're doing. And if you give this circle of safe, you're creating an environment that everyone knows that they are doing their purpose with the proper conditions of what they are doing. And that's the role of operational management also. It's not knowing only when you have the protection, the personal protection equipment. It's much more than that. It's creation this team of teams.
Thank you so much, Philippe. So we have here a comment and a question. So one participant said, I believe the music will be more like Nightwish, that is a blend of rock and classic. So will the future be a blend of old and new approaches?
Yeah, great question, and it's good that you made that connection with music, because music for me it's so much important. I think I truly love jazz musician, because people think that they are a virtuous guy, but they have to acquire the knowledge to be this kind of improvisation and kind to deal, and everyone respects each other's. Okay, so everyone knows what's their role. Everyone knows when to enter and not to enter. Only then you can create a melody. Only that you can create the harmony. Okay, so the beautiful song is when you can create this harmony among each other. So it's important, not the typology of the music, it's the way that you play it with your band, the way that you play with your team. And that's the important thing. You can have improvisation model, but you need to know what's the rules of engagement, okay? So everyone know what's the outcomes that we need to deliver, okay? Because we need to create value for the patients, and we need to create value for the whole cycle of care and the whole team.
Thank you so much, Philippe. So another question, how can we use the Spartan methods on our organization?
Yeah, another great question. So, first of all, you need to know if you are using spears or if you are using shields. Why am I saying this? You have to create a connection between the teams that you have. If you want to have a rule of Spartan, you should know what's your mission concerning what you're doing. Okay, what's the purpose of what you're getting? How can you lead like a gardener for you to put your team among the same objective? Okay, if everyone knows that the shield is the most important part and not the spear, you create a connectivity among the team, and you are only helping them to grow. You are only gardener your field for them to use the shield to protect each other. Okay, because if you look to the army, and they are very hierarchical in the way that they do, okay, they are enabling of defending until their death the guy that is next to him, and they don't know him. So the thing is, we should have a role and a purpose of what we are doing it. Only if we connect a correct team with a agility mode that everyone knows how they can be in a flat hierarchy, how they can be together, having their role, their voice, and not being in an environment that doesn't give them the voice the way that they are doing it for a purpose common.
Thank you so much, Philippe. One final question and related with the team aspect that you revealed so much to us and is so important for organizations. How do you develop the necessary emotion intelligence to turn on a team of teams?
Oh, yeah, that's also a great question. Intelligent emotion. So you need to know people not only as professional, but as human persons. Everyone has their bad days or good days. So every day that if you go up with your team and you do a daily stand up or 15 minutes, okay, you immediately know who in that day can deliver or not, is not in the good mood. And if everyone knows that everyone someday will not have a good day, so you need to deal with all this emotion, and if everyone is helping each other, then the purpose and the outcomes are always going to be as a group, as a team. So you need to help each other and have this kind of engagement purpose and common purpose for everyone to have a trust environment and a psychological safety environment, and they feel that they have a mission, and every day in the morning when they wake up, they know that they like what they're going to do, and they know that they are going to be happy when they gather their team because it's a common purpose and they forget about the danger. They are only focused on adding value.
Felipe, thank you so much. Thank you all for being with us today. We all know what you are thinking. Thank God it's Friday. Please have some rest during the weekend. Take some time for you because next week we will come with a lot of interesting topics for you, like how to do sales on this environment or the strategic breakaway. So I hope to count on you next week. And in the meantime, have a nice weekend.